Welcome to Being in Motherhood. We're your hosts, Kendra Fitzgerald and Nicole Coons, sisters, moms, and the co-founders of Devoted Mamas.
This show is all about you and using your perfectly messy, absurd, and marvelous experiences in motherhood as opportunities to hone your greatest qualities.
Because your family deserves the best of you, not the most of you.
You'll gain the tools to be a bold advocate for yourself in pregnancy, claim your joy in birth, and find wholeness in postpartum.
Being in Motherhood starts right here.
Hi, welcome to today's episode where we're talking about getting your partner on board with your postpartum fitness goals. So recently we surveyed our Devoted Mamas community of moms, and 72% of our community said that their partners don't understand their postpartum challenges. That's quite a lot. What we've also heard from moms is that it's important to them to have their partner's support in their postpartum recovery, because sometimes we need their hands-on help. Sometimes we need them to take the kids while we do our thing. Sometimes we need moral support or just, cheerleaders, or sometimes we need financial support, which means if 72% of moms feel their partners don't understand their postpartum challenges, but they need their support in addressing those challenges, you can guess where the rub comes in. So when you do start to focus on your own recovery as a mom, those early weeks, the months, the years after, it makes sense that you might hit some hesitation that's either coming up within yourself. Maybe you're saying, they won't get it, or feeling guilty for taking more time for yourself, especially in postpartum, because we depend on the help of other people quite a bit during that time. We get almost like asking for help fatigue because we feel like we've been asking for help for so much. Like we don't want to ask for something else, but this is something really important that we also need help with. So the other side of this is that you might get pushback or naysaying from your partner. Like, you might hear them say, oh, it's not that bad, or you have plenty of time, you don't have to rush it. So there are a lot of different ways that we come up against challenges when we are getting back to exercise. And so we're going to talk about how to overcome some of those.
Totally. And, we're really focused on partners today because while there might be other people in your world who are giving you pushback or, naysayers about your goals, it's really our partners. They're likely one of the most, if not the most important person in your life. And their opinion and viewpoint can have a huge impact on your perspective. So the reason we're having this conversation today is that we see moms not fully recovering postpartum because there's something to do with their partner, or they're bringing their partner into the conversation. And we see moms not fully recovering from postpartum, and there's probably a lot of reasons for it that are kind of tied in with this partner idea that they don't understand. And, one of them is the fact that postpartum healing is still a bit of a taboo topic in our society. No one really talks about it. I mean, yes, in some mother circles, you may definitely have some people opening up about their challenges. And that's such a relief to be in spaces like that and like this, these conversations that we're having. But generally speaking, out there, no one really talks about the aches and the pains, the embarrassing leaks, these nagging things that are going on. And it's certainly not being talked about and being really open with these things with our partners. The other thing that's happening or that exists is that we have a bit of an extreme view of health and healthcare. We almost adopt this mindset that if it's not bleeding or broken, then we're fine. And we just carry on. So that's the issue with pregnancy, creates a lot of imbalance in the body. And then in postpartum, we have these aches, these pains, these little niggly things that over time feel like kind of chronic and troublesome. But we're not bleeding, we're not broken. And so we get away with feeling, or we feel almost approved of by society, by the world out there. If we just sort of say, yeah, my back hurts, my shoulder hurts, my pelvic floor, I leak if I do too much, or if I run too fast, or I shift too quickly. And we just say, you know what, do we just carry on? And so we have to sort of dismantle that a little bit in order to be able to break free of these other things, these external factors that are potentially getting in the way of us taking control. And the final thing we see with moms not recovering from postpartum is that it's just not a topic that most partners are even thinking about. And it's not even on their radar, right? Like,
Yeah.
cool, you had the baby, and then really the focus shifts to the baby. But the truth is, as mothers, we need to do what we need to do for ourselves to feel happy before helping others feel happy, not the other way around. And we're going to get into like how to kind of get there because that's sometimes a big mindset shift. And sometimes we think we've made that shift, but in actual fact, we haven't. So we'll get into that. But let's just be really clear that we have to do what we need to do for ourselves. Yeah. But this is hard for women.
It is. It is. It's really hard for women also because there is a lot of conditioning that we may not even be aware of. It's inherent in our healthcare system. It's inherent in some of our family organizations. But thinking about, healthcare system, it's set up in the system that once you have the baby, the message is that moms come second. She's on the back burner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the healthcare system model. You get so much care during pregnancy and one appointment in postpartum. So that sends the huge message that, oh, she's fine. She doesn't need any care. She's great. She's good to do whatever she needs to do.
Yep.
But as moms, even though we're not outwardly injured, we find ourselves having to convince people, and in this case, our partners, that the nagging back pain, the embarrassing leaking, the painful intimacy is really impacting our lives. And so we actually want to give you some tools to be able to communicate that a little bit.
I was just remembering about how ingrained this is into our family systems and how our society is organized. Back in the spring this year, my family, we went to Washington, D.C. and visited the Museum of American History, which is a lovely, wonderful museum. It's like a gem of a place. It's like a walk through America's attic, right? It's like back in time. And the two sections that were most sort of eye-opening were the advertising, where they take you through time and all the advertising that was done, and the products and the gimmicks and the tools and equipment. And so much of it was geared toward mothers making everyone happy. And, I think we just have to recognize that at a cellular level, we have this imprinting. So if you find yourself saying, like, I can't get my partner on board to get behind my postpartum healing or to understand my postpartum healing, there might be some unspoken beliefs that are indicating that this matters on some level. So we might need to check that. I don't know. What do you think, Kendra?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I saw this meme the other day. It was a photo from a textbook article from the 1950s, and it was a home economics book. And it was all about tips on caring for your husband. And it had things like making sure the house is ready for when he gets home from work, make sure the kids are dressed and their hair is combed and their hands are clean, and maybe take off his shoes, have a bow in your hair, have dinner ready. He's going to be very tired. All these things that, like, right, you're laughing. It's like, it's kind of laughable at this point because we're like, that doesn't make sense. But when you think about it, this is from the 1950s.
Yeah, that would last like 2 seconds now.
2 seconds. Yeah. But, this is from our grandmother's time of mothering. So this is only like 2 generations, maybe 3 generations of mothering. And so it makes sense that, we still have that subtle programming in our history on both sides of partners. So mothers raise sons and daughters, and we still have that subtle programming in our minds, but we're under completely different circumstances now.
Yeah. And it's like that older programming doesn't make room for the new reality that we see unfolding now with mothers. Now we have the science to back exactly what's needed to heal a postpartum body after all the changes that have happened. We have the science that maybe didn't exist back then. The exercise science, the mind and body science, the healing science. So we have so much more knowledge now. And I love to see it taking hold.
Yeah. And not to mention, it definitely wasn't talked about back then. That's for sure.
Totally. Definitely not. Definitely not. So we are breaking new ground here and it's time and we are ready and the science is there to back it. And the people like us are here to support moms in doing this work. But, to get back to our partners being really important people and how their perspectives impact our decisions and how we feel, I want to point out one really important thing. And that is, yes, our partners are important. We love them. We cherish them. And when it comes to your body and your healing, it is up to you. Your well-being, your fitness, health, and your wealth as a result is way too important to leave to someone else to decide when or how it happens. It's really up to you. So you have the choice. You and the mother in that position, you have the choice and the agency into how your healing unfolds. And for some people, you haven't quite decided this is important to you, or you don't really know what that looks like or what that means. And for others of you, you're going to start to formulate that maybe over the course of this episode to have build some ideas of what is it that you actually want and to generate the focus and to just get resourceful and get going. So honestly, it doesn't really matter what your partner thinks or if they actually understand, but we do need them on board to some degree. So that is why we are going to dive into some questions today to help you really think about, how do you tackle this? How do you take control, say, yes, it's up to me, I accept full responsibility, and I really value my partner's participation, their support. And look, they may never really understand it completely because they just can't experience postpartum, right? Let's just be frank. And that's okay. We can distinguish between them understanding you and them backing you or supporting you. And they don't really have to understand postpartum recovery fully in order to be supportive. And know that their perspective about the importance of your healing and the importance of your process in getting back to your full strength, potentially even stronger than before you have kids. Yes, we definitely see that. That their perspective can change in time as you grow. You go first, show the way, and their perspective can change.
Yeah. And then, what I'm hearing you say too is also that the question kind of changes for us as well as women and as mothers. So then the question becomes actually not so much, how do I get my partner on board? Yes, we need them on board for some certain, reasons. But the question really becomes, how do I make progress on my postpartum fitness goals regardless of my partner's perspective, right?
Right. If we kind of take their perspective, their opinions out of the equation for just a little bit, like what we actually get to unpack this a little more and make some decisions.
Yeah. So we really want to give you some questions to ask yourself first, because that is really what comes first, is helping yourself first. Are you tired of being told that your pregnancy or postpartum aches and pains are normal and should just go away on their own? That your concerns about birth are normal and not to worry? Like you're supposed to wait, take it easy, and do the whole trust your body thing. Yes, our bodies are amazing, but waiting and trusting without any action only makes imbalances, weakness, and insecurities worse. We work privately with moms who want to take an active role in creating strength, healing, confidence, and independence, whether that's in your fitness, in your birth, or in your active life as a mother. Moms who work with us value having a simplified path to follow that's personalized to their needs and gets them to their mind, body, and fitness goals faster. If you need more help feeling your best in pregnancy, birth, or postpartum, reach out. See if we're fit to work together. Contact us at devotedmamas.com/private coaching. Now back to the show. A couple of the questions that we want to give you, and feel free to get a piece of paper because these are questions that you might want to reflect back on later, is starting with yourself. So the first question is, what do you actually want? And do you actually want it?
Ooh, it's a good one.
Yeah. It seems like such a simple question, but when you start digging into that question, it's a little bit mind-blowing, and it's a hard question. Nicole, I think you had a story about that, right?
It is a mind-blowing question, but only because we just don't even realize that we haven't assessed what we want. So an example, there was a retreat that my yoga teacher was leading, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. I was reading all about it and like just imagining just how amazing this retreat was going to be. And it truly was amazing. I was like, wow, I would love to do this. And then the due date came and it was like getting close and I had to kind of like make a decision. And I was having all this pushback, this internal pushback of like, and I was like thinking, well, I need to talk to my husband. I need to see because I have to do stuff with the kids if I'm gone. And, there was a lot of like implications of me doing this retreat. And so I had a moment where I was like, well, wait a minute. Why am I skirting around this? Why am I feeling sheepish about this conversation with him? Because like, if this is something that I actually want, then I would be working to figure it out. And like, aha, what do I actually want? Like, I got quiet and just sort of reflected and like thought, you know what I do love about this idea is XYZ, but I don't feel the need to do this right now. Right now, my priority is something else. And I really made a conscious choice within myself to say, you know what? I don't actually want to do this retreat at this moment, on the dates it's offered, and it's not perfect for me. I don't actually want to do it yet or now. And that was such a bold realization for me because it freed me up from this, first of all, blame, like, oh, my partner, I can't do this because my husband, this or that. It was really very freeing. So this one can be useful just to decide what do you actually want.
Yeah. And what you don't want.
And what you don't want. Yeah. What do you want instead?
So when you do actually figure out the things that you want and you don't want, it might be surprising. The next question is, a lot of postpartum moms that we talk about, what they do want and they actually want is to feel like they're getting back to themselves, feel like themselves again.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to pose the question to you, how do you define feeling like yourself, getting back to feeling like yourself? We have a lot of conversations with moms, and I often in those conversations ask moms to dream with me a little bit. It's my favorite part of the conversation because asking a mom to dream is like taking her out into this land that she hasn't seen in years. And it's really freeing. But it also, I found it takes some time to put that into words and really formulate some ideas. There's definitely some silence when I ask these questions because it's like, wait, what? You want me to? I don't even know what that looks like. So grab that piece of paper and take note of what does getting back to feeling like yourself look like? And really get specific. The specificity of what you can come up with is going to help you dream even more. You've got to get really, really specific. Is it getting back to biking? Is it going on hikes with your family? If that's the case, where are you going biking? What's your bike look like? What do you feel like? How does the wind feel on your skin? When you're hiking, what are your kids doing? Are they walking with you? Are you carrying your baby on your back? Is your partner carrying the baby? Are you free and clear? What is it that would really make you feel like yourself? Is it putting on a sexy dress and going to a wedding? Is it feeling like you can run on the beach without worrying about leaking? Get really specific with those images of what it feels like to get back to feeling like yourself. And I think this is hard for a lot of moms. It was hard for me too, because our brains in postpartum are really wired to be baby oriented. We are meant to focus on the baby. We are not geared to think about, well, how am I doing? But it's so important to stop and ask this question because just like the purpose of this podcast is to make sure that you are giving your family the best of you, not the most of you. So the next question after that, once you've kind of gone into and getting really excited about how you want to feel like yourself again, then the next question is really, what do you have to lose if you don't go after what you want? What's at stake?
Yes.
I find that the moms who make the most progress understand exactly how much is at stake. What I mean by that is what will happen if they don't take action? What does their life look like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road if they don't ask themselves these questions, right? You don't ask, like, what does it feel like to get back to myself? Suddenly, 20 years from now, you're like, oh, who am I? I don't even know. And so I think putting that into the equation of what do you have to lose by not doing this is a really important one that is a really high motivation kicker. You're talking like putting your feet to the fire. Like this is the way you put the feet to the fire. Think about what you stand to lose.
And it's also like, I think of it as like leverage in the moment. When you are in that moment of, I think I'm just going to wait till tomorrow, or I'm going to wait till next month, or I'm going to wait until whatever happens, XYZ condition. This becomes your leverage to like, you know what? I need to start now, imperfectly. This is a really important part of this equation of reflection, because this is what helps you move out of feeling bad and into action.
Exactly. And so once you dive into this clarity of yourself, then we can start to think about our partner. So often we think about our partner first and we're like, oh, it doesn't matter what I think. But now that you have this clarity about yourself, now you can start to think about your partner. So we want to give you some questions, although little caveat, the questions about your partner start with you. So the first question is, what would you like your partner to know about your recovery that you haven't told them yet? What are the things that you've been through, the experiences that you've been through that you just haven't shared, either out of guilt or not wanting to sound like you're complaining or nagging or anything like that? What have you not told them yet? What do you wish that they understood? And why is it important that they understand it?
Yeah. And it might even be things that you haven't told them yet about what you're learning. Maybe you have learned some things that they don't know, that if you could tell them, if they did understand and have some of the insight that you have now, that might be a part of your things that you wish they understood. Kind of like, when we have babies, we always encourage our partners to do some reading or do something so that they're a little bit more informed. We can do the same thing in postpartum.
Yeah. And along those lines, our partners play a specific role in pregnancy and birth, which is the same that happens in postpartum. So the next question is, what role do you see your partner playing in your healing? Do you need them for moral support? Do you need them for schedule partnership or financial partnership? Because when you can define what role you need support in, that conversation becomes a lot more focused, and it's a lot easier to kind of see where you need more help.
Yeah.
And then we get to the final question, which finally involves your partner. What does your partner value? What are they going to get out of this? What's in it for them?
Yes. So what we see is, for most partners, many partners, and let's be frank, sex is motivating. If your healing and your recovery means that they're going to get more sex, they're going to back you no matter what. So, go there, ask yourself, does my partner value sex? And if you don't know, find out. And they will be more than happy to tell you if that is motivating to them.
And I don't know any partner who would be like, no, I don't want more sex. Nobody would say that. I don't think so. Everybody's going to be happy with that.
Yeah. So go there and pay attention to what about your healing would make intimacy and sex more appealing, more comfortable. We've had situations where different moms have had different experiences with painful sex, and sometimes it takes a really long time, or it's just painful and they can't enjoy it, and then it's a chore. These layers and layers and layers of complication get wrapped in, when all you need, if it felt good and you felt good, you can do quickies all the time. And that's incredibly motivating and freeing, for not only for you, but for them. So count that as a really huge one, a reason why they can support you, and they will support you if you're willing to go there and just be like, look, this is going to help you get laid more. Just go there.
Exactly. That's right.
Let's say sex is not the most motivating thing. Maybe you as a couple have activities that you enjoy, like sports, like running, surfing, kiteboarding, hiking, whatever it is. And these things are physically demanding. And if you're leaking and you've got pain in your hip and it's making everything hurt and you can't participate, or you're cutting things short and not doing them together, it's going to get in the middle of your relationship and your connection. This might be another reason why your partner would value and get behind your postpartum healing. And finally, we see plenty of situations too where the partners are generally just concerned for a mother's general happiness, because they know that the energy of you being happy is a very impactful thing in the dynamic of the family.
Yeah, 100%. And, perhaps after going through these questions, you might realize a couple of things. The first being that you have a lot more to do with your recovery than you might have previously acknowledged or accepted. And maybe two, the support you need is very specific. You may not have realized exactly the specificity of support that you need. And now you have a bit more language around it that you can share, and decisiveness, right? So, to summarize kind of what we talked about today, we pulled together a few do's and don'ts. So, Nicole, you want to start with the do's?
Yes. So do take responsibility for yourself. Share your own experiences with openness and vulnerability and even honesty. Describe how you want to feel, look, and be in the family, both to yourself and to your partner. Even sharing your thoughts on how this will positively affect your children and your family. Stay connected to how your partner will benefit. And I love this one. Do share success stories of other moms. So we have tons of success stories that we're sharing. You can use ours and you can ask us if you want more examples of stories like yours. And finally, the biggest do of all is keep in mind that ultimately you make the decision about how you want to feel. Now, we also have some don'ts. So, number one, don't go into a discussion without knowing how you want to feel, look, or be in your family. Also, don't get stuck feeling bad because we know feeling bad is not an empowering emotion of action. And you know by now, don't blame them for holding you back. Don't look to them for advice on how to get started. This is a biggie because a lot of times we think like they maybe even want to weigh in and like, oh, I think you should just go back to whatever you're doing. Your doctor said you're clear. Can't you just go for a run? They're going to give you advice on how to get started. But again, without the knowledge and understanding that you have and are gaining, looking to your partner who has not and does not experience postpartum, their advice is not going to be the best on how to get started. So don't look to them for advice. Just smile and grin, say thank you, honey. I appreciate that, and move on.
I can actually give you a couple of examples on this one that I've had, clients that we've worked with in the past. They're like, oh, my husband just told me to go back to the gym and he's like doing a boot camp class and wanted me to come with him. We're like, whoa. Their advice, again, they don't really understand what postpartum recovery looks like and also postpartum exercise. So get your advice from other places. Don't look for them for advice.
Yeah. Next, don't rely on them for motivation to get started or follow through. Sorry, but this is coming from within you, and we're here to help you with that. But don't rely on them for the motivation to get started. And finally, don't lose focus on what you really want for yourself. Be the keeper of the vision for yourself and your family. That's yours. So we've shared a lot of nuggets with you today to help you get your partner on board with your fitness goals. And we want to let you know that it is safe for you to take the lead in healing and feeling your best. Remember, your family will thrive as you do. And we always say your family deserves the best of you, not just the most of you. We are here to support you in that. If you're not sure what you need, but you do know you're ready for a change, let's have a chat. Listening to this episode is just the first step. Comment below if anything from this episode resonated with you, or send us a message if you'd like to chat more.
That wraps us up for this episode. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the Being in Motherhood podcast by Devoted Mamas, please share it with other mothers and leave a review.
As always, you can find us on Instagram at Devoted Mamas and check out all links and resources in the show notes. Be courageous and stay devoted to growing into your best self as a mom.